No, they loved him. He was great. Because for him, he worked. See, he took those, let me back up. He took those tapes, when he recorded that stuff, he sent it to his family. He sent it to his extended family. Let me tell you how smart this kid was. He couldn't get to the store because the neighbors would tell, oh, I seen so-and-so walking down the street. He's in trouble. He was smart enough to know I can't do that. He was also smart enough to know that during that time when things came in the mail, sometimes it would be printed. It wouldn't be a stamp. It would be printed and it didn't have a date. So what he would do on the ones that didn't have a return address on them, because it was pretty common, he would instead put the to address and the from address as the same person. So in the end, if they wanted to return it because the weight or whatever the case may be didn't work out, well, guess where they're going to return it to? They're going to return it to that address up there in the corner. So no matter what, these are going to get to where they need to get to. Now, here is the thing. Like a mission to take over a country, and you are the only man on this mission. Mission impossible. You have no team. This kid had to figure out a way to get to the mailbox without being seen. Now, let me tell you, the mailbox was probably 25 to 30 feet away. But in that 25 to 30 feet, the nosy neighbor, today you call her Karen, the nosy neighbor, what are you doing? She was the manager. She would be the first. I seen that little nappy head boy, da 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 da. She would be the first to rat the kid out. So he plotted and strategized and plotted and strategized, all the while recording. So all of the beatings, the yellings, the torture, all of it was captured. There was no video back then. There was no way for him to, there was no devices. There was no cell phones. There was no smartphones. The only thing that there was a tape recorder. And so what did he do? He used the tape recorder. Yeah. He used the tape recorder. And with that tape recorder, he got a bunch of beatings. A bunch of beatings. Hours and hours. And let's say that it was a situation where he walked in and he was there for lunch and, he felt like the kid should have made him lunch and the kid didn't make him lunch and he beat the kid up. Or maybe the mother, a lot back then, what the mother would do is the mother would set the beans on in the morning to boil to make chili later on. And so the kid would have to go through, clean out all the beans. If he went in there and seen that the kid missed one of the beans that had the little shell and the shell in that bean was loose and floating, then that kid would get that beating. This man never cooked. This man never cooked. This man never cooked. This kid was cooking at the age of like 6. This man used to make the kid clean his filthy, dirty bathroom. Pick up his dirty underwear. We said dirty drawers. Pick up his dirty underwear. Make his bed that they did who knows what in and left who knows what laying on. And this kid is seeing this, not really knowing what the heck is going on over time, of course, but yeah. And clean up the mess, pick up the panties, pick up all the loose stuff that's down there that shouldn't be, a kid shouldn't be picking up. This kid had to do that. Listen, I understand. There's nothing wrong with cleaning your parents' bathroom and helping out. I mean, I have kids. My kids have never cleaned my bathroom. That won't happen. If my arms and legs don't work, okay, I might hire a maid or a housekeeper or whatever, maid service. They drive around a lot and stuff, or have a housekeeper that, keep on staff, something like that. Not in this situation. This kid cleaned everything. And eventually, the sisters were taught to do what he did. Only one of them was treated harshly. The other one, the youngest one, was not. But this kid didn't share all the things. A lot of times they seen him adults seen what this kid was going through. This mother did not help or protect this kid. But later in life, that same mother required, almost demanded, that kid take care of her when she was bodily able, and still is bodily able. And so for years, the majority of this person's life, if you were to put it on the table at 50-50, at some point, you would have seen that this kid, the earlier part of his life, they say that you are an adult longer than you are a child, and this is very true. However, if you look at what many people go through in their childhood and then they get into adulthood, they never had a childhood. They never had a childhood the way you would have a childhood, or the way that kid next door with their two parents who are taking them on vacation with them and giving them all these amazing worldly experiences and going and learning new cultures and doing all kinds of things. When you don't have that, all you have is every day in fight or flight mode, because that is exactly what it was. It was fight or flight mode. 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. And everybody finally get to see this kid on Easter, and he looks amazing because they dressed him up real good in some pink clothes to look like he's a model, showcasing for them. Because he looked good in them pink and that beige. You hook it up, it look good. You put them beige khakis on with that pink vest, the sweater vest. Come on, looking GQ out there. Scarred, bruised, bleeding, swollen. Don't sit down. Why won't you sit down? Oh, I'm okay standing up. Can't sit down because he's swollen underneath. He's scarred and bruised underneath. But see, some people actually knew, but there was nothing they could do, because every time they say something, the mother would stand up for the man who is not her husband, who is not that child's father, who is not none of her children's father, and who is not paying bills. He is living for free, collecting his money, beating your children, and you ain't doing nothing about it. And there are a lot of mothers like that. And I want to tell you something. I need you to understand something. If you have children and those children grow up and they don't understand their value, they don't know who they are, they don't know where to go, they don't know where to look, they don't know who to trust, they don't know how to have good relationships, it's because you did that. As a parent. So then, is the kid lost? Not all the time. A lot of them are lost. They don't know their value. They don't. So then they end up coming across people who may see value in them, but they want to manipulate that value for their own personal gain. That kid gets entrapped because what they believe, this situation, this gang, this person, this whatever it is, it's a very hostile situation. They just haven't gotten to that point yet, but it's coming. They are groomed into something, into becoming something, into joining something. That is the mirror image with a veil over it of what they've been through already. You see, it is the same torture inside. It's the same torture mentally. They're going through the same stuff inside. But here's the thing. They know that. They're used to that. They understand that. It's easier for them to adapt. Why am I so passionate about this? I told you just now about me. Go to school and everybody thought I was great. My coaches was like, yeah, I'm great. I'm doing good. One coach would always say, why are you like a robot? Why are you like a robot? I don't understand. There is so much more to that story. You have no idea. You have no idea. You will never, ever even know. You haven't the slightest idea. What's most important and the biggest takeaway, it was the drive and the desire to press on. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know where mine came from. That's not true. I do know. I'm going to tell you about a young me. I couldn't have toys. I had uncles who were, we was in Compton. So, it was back in the day. Who came to the house, carloads of toys. They went to all the places. We were in that two-bedroom apartment. I said the house. We were in that two-bedroom apartment in Linwood, as a matter of fact. Came to the place with a bunch of toys. This was my sister's dad and his brothers. They came and they brought bags and bags of toys, big old, huge, hefty bags full of toys, and they were taking them to all the houses for the kids. And so they came. Now they didn't have a bag for me because the reality was I wasn't his kid. But one of the uncles was like, nah, you take care of him. So they told me to go in the bag and get anything I wanted. And then they said, we're going to leave this bag here. Do you know, I went in that bag and there was one thing that I wanted because I was very, very into this. I wanted a keyboard that was a small little keyboard. Matter of fact, there was a movie with, was his name Terrence Howard? I think his name was Terrence Howard. It's like Hard Out There for a Pimp, whatever. And they had that keyboard. That same exact keyboard was the keyboard, or it was one exactly like it that was in there. And that was exactly what I just wanted that. All those bags of toys were mine too, but I didn't want to deal with those at the moment. All I wanted was that. He took it from me. When they left, he took it from me and told me, you ain't getting in this thing, in this bag. You can forget it. You go back in there. Right? All that smiling stuff, they gone. You go back and get in that bed. I'll be in there in a minute. And then it went down and he took everything. So I went Christmas after Christmas after Christmas like that. I don't remember having a Christmas where I got a gift until maybe I was 15, I think. I literally do not remember Christmases. I remember that Christmas, and I remember there was a Christmas where he bought my mom a fur coat or a mink coat or cheetah long trench-like coat, something. I remember that. Outside of those two, I don't even remember Christmases in between. Like they didn't happen. Her friends saw all of this, knew what was going on. I'm sure they probably said stuff. But again, I'm sure she protected them. And I say that because in my adulthood, when I was older and I had my own kids, I remember going out to a resort. We met up with them out at the resort. And one of them, they were drinking, and I wasn't drinking or anything like that. And my wife wasn't, and our kids were babies. And in that, she told all of those ladies, a bunch of ladies there, and she just said to them that, my son had to do it all on his own his whole life. And she was crying. She was like, I wasn't there for him the way I should have been. I didn't protect him. I didn't this, that, the other. And they knew, though. They already knew. And that one of those ladies later called me, and because she had been there. She literally had been there. Like they would leave and go to vacation, and they would leave us with this one. And she was in law enforcement, which is sad. She wasn't in law enforcement at the time that way. Maybe she was. I don't know. But what's crazy is my mom was in law enforcement, and he was something of the sort. And he had two jobs. I think one of them was like security or investigations or something. I don't know. But it was real, you have to overcome. And I'm not speaking from from a place of I haven't overcame. I'm not even speaking from a place of insensitivity, saying that, you know what, you got to let it go because it's hard. Listen, I deal with it every day. I look in the mirror and you see I have like these little deep rooted scars on my face. That's the belt buckle. So I have to deal with that. And I have to deal with that every single morning that I wake up, before I go to bed, every time I look in the mirror, every time I see myself on video, every single time I see me in a picture and everything, I am always reminded, and I will be, all of the scars, I still have them. Where the belt buckle tore through my flesh and they didn't take me to the hospital and I just bled and wrapped it, went in there in the bathroom, wrapped it up and bled all over the place. I live with those scars. I have no other choice but to live with those scars. But you know what I did? I overcame. I didn't overcome because of them. I didn't overcome because of them. I overcame because of me. I was talking about how I didn't have something. I did. This is what I had. And some people may be frustrated. Some people may be mad. Listen, when I take the long nap, I'm going to be by myself. So I don't care if you're mad, but I'm going to tell you what I had the red letters. I had the Old Testament. I had the New Testament. Let me tell you something. I was so concrete in that word. But that was literally all I had. As I got older, I learned more and more and more. So my knowledge base expanded. But understanding spirituality, understanding the word, all I had was the word. That was it. All I had was the word. And this is not me trying to promote, hey, you need to get into the Bible. This is not me telling you what to do, because I don't believe in it. I had somebody tell me what to do in a period of my life that was probably the most critical period of my life. But I realized, though, had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be able to tell you this story right now. I wouldn't be able to tell you about the torture. I wouldn't be able to tell you about everything that I went through. I wouldn't be able to tell you that I actually overcame it. I wouldn't be able to tell you that I went to therapy. A lot of brothers that look like me, they say, oh, man, that's you crazy. I'm not going to no therapy. Man, let me tell you, my brother Eric Arrington, may he rest in peace. I remember when the day I told him that I was going to therapy, and he was like, he just started clapping his hands. When I finally seen him, I told him on the phone, but when I finally seen him, he's just clapping his hands. On the phone, he was like, I love you. I want you to know I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. He said, you know what you just did? You broke the cycle. He was like, you broke the cycle. So when he saw me, he was just clapping. That's what I'm talking about. Fired up. When my entire childhood, I could not tell you one time I heard someone say to me, I love you. My mom may have said it, but do you know how hard it is to hear that when she's sleeping with the enemy who's torturing me every day? He may as well hung me up inside of a cave somewhere and just have been beating me with a whip or bat or whatever, right? Because it's basically what was happening. The only difference was I just wasn't tied up. That was the only difference. Years later, matter of fact, during the shutdown, my sister was living with me, and it was the first time that she heard some of this. Now, before that guy came on, let me tell you how I met this guy, right? Let me back up and tell you how I met this guy. We were living with another family member, and the daughter in that household, teenager. I was little, like kindergarten. She would chase me around, and so she could fondle me. She would do things to like sexually molest me. She would lay us all in a row, side by side, at night, because her bedroom was right here, and this bedroom was next door. We were sleeping in that one, and she would put us to where she would just reach over my sisters and do stuff. Well, I don't know what's going on. I'm a little bitty dude, man. I'm a little bitty dude. You know what I mean? I feel uncomfortable. I don't know what's going on. I would try to run because I would come home and she would come home and I'd have to be there with her. And I couldn't tell nobody. I didn't know what to do. She would chase me around so that she could try to get me to do stuff. And come on. I don't want to get into the details of that because all of that, I relive it in my head and I try my hardest to combat it, right? They say you can forgive, but you never forget. I'm going to tell you two things. And if you go to church, you might have a hard time with this. I don't forgive that. I have children. I don't forgive that. I don't forgive the things that she did to me. And I haven't forgot that. I never will. I don't talk to them. I will never forget that. I will never forgive that. I spoke up for myself one time. When I spoke up for myself, because listen, I was hiding. There was a neighbor who knew me from the church and all this, black folks go to church all day. I'm with my aunt going to church all day. There was a guy that, I don't know, she off and on dated or whatever, older guy. He was probably in his 60s. He knew something was up. He would be telling me to open the door, let me see you, this, that, the other. I couldn't open the door. I was afraid. But she came and she was in there and she was trying to get me. And I remember her chasing me and I hid. So there was this cabinet by the stairs. And then there was the water heater in that cabinet. Below that water heater, there was like this little compartment, it was like a little shelf door where you can like throw pillows or something. I don't know under there what you put under there. I was small, so I hid up under the water heater, closed it, right? There may have been gases or what. At that point, I didn't care. I know I was protected though because I'm here right now talking. So I did survive that. But I jumped out of there and I ran to my aunt. I waited and waited and waited. She was looking for me everywhere. And I think she called her mom. Her mom came home. I'm down up under there. And I bust up out of there crying and everything. And I told her mom and everything that was going on. And she told me I was a demon. I had the devil in me. I was a lie. She put me in scalding hot water, grabbed an extension cord, beat the hell out of me in that scalding hot water. I'm sorry for putting that in the face. She did my fingers up here, but she beat the hell out of me in that scalding hot water. I was bloodied and beat. And then they barricaded me in the room. I mean, imagine being in I don't know how you cast out demons. I don't know that I was a demon. If I was probably the weakest demon that ever existed in the trans-dimensional world. She did me in. Now she had a son, older guy. Love him to death. He wasn't there. He would be working and going to school and doing his thing, and man, that was my guy. He's no longer with us, but he didn't catch on. He didn't learn about stuff until later because, like I said, he was never home. But I'm barricaded inside of this room and I'm crying loudly. I'm crying and they're coming in there threatening me and all kinds of stuff. My mom comes home. She's parked outside the window and she's talking to this guy. I don't know who he is. I couldn't open the window. I'm doing everything I can. I'm small. I can't reach. It's high to get to the little latch to open the window. So I'm doing everything I can. And they're screaming at me from the outside. You better not open that. You better shut up. Finally, I'm crying and I'm hollering. I was banging on the window. Now, if you saw me as a little kid, you'd see I was a little bony kid. I'm banging on the window, but I can't get a response. She can't hear me. They're out there laughing, having a good time. And I see she's out there with there's this little bitty girl too. But there's this guy and this little girl and I'm banging. And finally I get it. I don't know what I did, but I get it to where it opens and I scream, Mom, help! I'm screaming and hollering. She's like, oh my God, what is that? She looks up and she sees me. She's like, what's wrong? And she finally runs around into the place to come in and she's trying to get in and she wouldn't let her in. she wouldn't let her in, and finally she gets in, and they instantly get into it. She's trying to get upstairs. They're not letting her upstairs. They instantly get into it. And I am trying to get out of the door. I can't because they've got it so that I can't get out. Everything I do, nothing is working for me to get out. And so I'm just kicking and banging and pulling and kicking and pulling. And somehow I get the door open. I fly into the little wall. There's a cabinet right there. And then there's the 2 flights of stairs. And I try to go down the stairs, but I am so bruised and bloodied and sore. I am in so much pain. Every single step, I cannot walk. I want you to understand how bad this is. I could not walk. So I had to crawl, sort of slither my way to get down the stairs. And my mom finally comes, and the look, the expression on her face when she saw me, I mean, at that, I know they started arguing, and I don't even know what happened after that. Like, I don't know if I passed out. I don't know what happened. I literally draw a blank. I probably passed out. I just remember that I was not there when I woke up. I had to get to a point or a place where I understood my value in life. Years later, of course. As a kid, there was one thing I knew for sure. Right? Because, see, that happened during that time. That was around when I first started living with my mom. And then I ended up going back to my grandmother before coming back to my mom. But what I knew was the expression of love that I felt, that I knew, it came from my grandmother. And it wasn't what she said. It wasn't what she said. It wasn't even what she did. It was her very presence in my life. When I was around my great-grandfather, he would just sit. It was amazing. You have a conversation with him and he would respond to you in biblical text. I was confused for years. But as I got older, I understood. He was very dignified. Very dignified. My great-grandmother, the same. I remember holding that plaque that she received from the President of the United States and from the governors and all that stuff. And I'm reading. I'm just like, well, my great-grandmother, I'm just like, wow. I remember being there when the opera was opera singer was singing, and it was an awards. It wasn't an award ceremony. It was like a ceremony of like recognition for her. And she was being presented with all these awards, and it's recognition. It's not an award. You know what I mean? Like she wasn't in a competition. It is because of who she was, and it was because of her contribution to the city, her contribution to the state, her contribution to the country, and all the things that she did. And I'm just, her love was unmatched. So I had 2 amazing black women. But I don't know what happened down the tree. But like I said, later it revealed itself as mental illness. So how did I get to a point where I learned to have value? You see, I stood for something. I did. I stood for something. I want to say that I stood for difference. I stood for progress. I stood for change. Because what I knew growing up in Compton to Linwood to the IE was a whole lot of bad. But I knew that that couldn't be the way it was supposed to be. We weren't placed to be here this way. This is not, there's no way you can, I'm reading these red letters. I'm reading these texts. There's no way you can tell me that I was put here to endure this. There's no way you can tell me that I'm put here to endure this. There's got to be more. All I got to do is hold on. All I got to do is hold on. If I hold on, at the end of the tunnel, there's going to be something there waiting for me. It may not be a treasure, but it may be better than everything that I've seen in my life up until this point. And if it is, if it's there, then I want it. I'm going after it. But here's the deal. I realize that I can't, because it's embarrassing. I'm not going to go outside crying. One of the times I had a book. It was a math book. And my favorite subjects were math and science. Now, I was very good at art and drawing and illustration. And so this book, they give you a book, but you have the opportunity to buy books because they have book sales where people have damaged books and did all types of things. So they used to sell those books for like 10 cents. Right? Stuff like that. 70 cents, 60 cents, 30 cents. So I had some change. I was like, wow, I can have 2 math books. Cool. I can have one where I can keep one in my locker. That's the one that I turn in. This is mine. I can bring it home. I brought it home. That book was trashed. It was written, graffitied, all kinds of stuff. Cool. It was mine. I could do whatever I want to it. So I would draw with now, like, they're like Marvel characters. I would draw, characters and stuff in my book. It's mine. Do you know my teacher Graham seen the stuff in my book, grabbed it, sent me to the principal's office, called. Nobody ever asked me anything about the book. And every time I tried to talk and say that it's my book, I have the receipt, it's my book, I have the receipt, it's my book, I have the receipt, I own it, it's my book, I have the receipt. All of the gang text in there, I don't even know what those gangs were. I was new to Inland Empire. All of those things that were inside of that book, I was accused of. But my book is in my locker. My book is in my locker. This is mine. I own it because you sold it to me, and you sold it because it was damaged because you knew that the graffiti was up in there. And now you have called this man who is Idi Amin, who's about to torture me because of everything that I've gone, everything that you see or that you think that I've done, and I haven't done it. And that's exactly what he did. Strip me down. I was 12 years old. Stripped me down to beat the hell out of me with a cord because he thought I was doing. How you in 600 damn gangs? I don't know how many damn gangs. It was like they were crossing each other out and tic-tac-toe and chessboard and everything else up in there. How you in all those gangs? This ain't prison. It is in that household. And I had enough. My only fight was to run. So I ran out of the house and ran down the street, and I didn't have no damn clothes on. I'm 12 years old. And this man comes walking down the street. First, he walks out with his big ass police belt he got. But then when he notices there are actually people out here, I didn't care anymore. I didn't care. I cried out for my own daddy. I didn't even know the man at the time like that. I knew him, but I didn't know him. I didn't know him and he had already passed. I wasn't going to call out for my mama. I don't think I've ever called out for my mom because she's never protected me. It was a wish. So I ran my ass down that street. And he came down there like he cared. He put on a great show for the neighbors. An amazing, remarkable show for the neighbors. He came down there as I was down there on the curb because I couldn't go no more. I was in pain. And I'm naked. And I'm sitting out here on the corner. Luckily for me, none of my friends were around. At least that I know of. Maybe they were in looking at the window. I don't know. But he came and he held me. And he held me close and walked me back to the house. Where was I going to go? Who was I going to call? I had been trying to call people. I recorded tapes and sent it. I sent tapes off. It didn't stop because we moved from down there to out here. It didn't stop. It kept going. He just elevated the torture to another level. That's all. my value. He just elevated it. After I went through all of that, see, they were going to expel me. So what they did was they went to go clean out my locker. And guess what they found? My book. Spotless, clean, didn't have a mark in it. I always carried the one that was worn out. I kept that one there. It looked like a fresh new book. Inside the book had like a code, because when you get your book, they write down the code that's in there, or the little, whatever the numbers are, to say that, okay, this book belongs to this person. And then they cross-reference that, right? When you got to sign, check your book in, then you sign. They saw that book. But here's the deal. I couldn't go back to school because they had already put that in motion. So they had to go back and try to fix that, right? Not only that, I couldn't go back to school because I am bruised and battered up. And for him, it was excitement. It was hey, woo hoo hoo hoo. It's time to go. It's go time. It was go time for him. But even after he found out, he didn't say nothing. He didn't apologize. He didn't look me in the face. Never caught me eye to eye. Not one time. You want to know what he did? He took that book that was mine, that I paid for, that they gave to him, and he threw it at me. He told me to get this shit out of his house. The house that my mother was paying for. That now that they're married, he's not even paying for. He's not even helping with. Yeah. So how do I understand? How do I calculate? How do I measure? How do I determine what my value is? I had one book, and every chance I got to read that book, I studied that book. Man, let me tell you something. I studied that book like you would never even imagine. I didn't have anything. Radio taken. Can't listen to K-Day no more. Right? I used to go on and listen to CMC. I knew who Duran Duran was, George Michael was. I listened to all kinds of music. Music was my thing. When I was on top of that bed, I listened. I used to listen to the sounds of the tires on the main street going by and put a beat in my head. All the time. I used to listen to the sounds of engines, listen to whenever people would drive by, and then there was the little drain, and the drain had the little metal grill on it, and when they go by, it would make a sound like clink, clink. But then when the two wheels hit, it'd go clink, 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 clink. I was putting it together in my head. Music was my thing. So then I learned how I would read, and I would have a song playing in the back, and it would be something classical that I heard before, and I would play it in my head. And I would stick with it. I would hear songs. I would play them in my head. I would hear country music. I would play it in my head. Hip hop was taking off. I would hear it, try to remember it, play it in my head. There's songs that I remember today. I can say every word verbatim from a long, long time ago. And I know a lot of people were like that. But I know songs that's crazy that people were like, who is that? I've never heard that. And it was a popular song on the radio. My value was tied to that word. In Ephesians, it would say, stand tall. Having done all you can do to stand. Do you know I lived by that? Wear the armor of God. I lived by that. Every time I took a blow, every time I got beat, every time I got punched, every time I got kicked, and I'm knocked down, I would stand up, bleeding. I would stand until I couldn't stand no more. I'm a fighter. So how do I measure my value? How do I know that I am valuable when all that I've been taught is that I have no value in this world whatsoever? I'll tell you how I know. I know because everything that he did, everything that she did, everything that she did, none of what any of them did defeated me. So I'm here for a reason. It's taken me forever to get to this point to be able to do this right here. But I have a feeling that somebody needs to hear this. Otherwise, why did I go through it? I can say, yeah, you know what? They were effed up people. They were. Yeah, they were. They were. But I have some talents. I have some talents. And what I've learned is when I kick against the prick, if I kick against the prick, I always lose. I always lose. And sometimes what I'm supposed to be doing, it will come and it'll tap me on the shoulder and say, let's go. And I'll run the other way. I'm not running the other way right now. And I'll run the other way, not because I don't want to do it, because I'm like, hey, I want to do this over here. I want to do this. This looks exciting. I'm going to go do that right there. I'm going to do this in business or whatever the case may be. However, if you go back and you look at the people whose lives that I've touched, I've taken them from a low place where they were developmentally to a high place where they are currently and continuing to go. And I've been blessed to do that. But what they don't know is that I draw from everything that I've gone through when I listen. I draw from everything that I've gone through when I approach them. I draw from everything that I go through when I set them up with developmental activities for them to grow, to become whoever it is that they're going to become, for them to be challenged, for them to be pushed out of their comfort zone. My entire life, I've been pushed out of my comfort zone because the comfort zone changes, so I never have the opportunity to actually adjust to that comfort zone. I've always had to change. I've always had to adapt. I've always had to become a chameleon. I've always had to maneuver in different ways in order for me to survive that situation. And that's been my life all the time. And I know a lot of people go through the same things, but you haven't gone through what I've gone through. You've gone through what you've gone through. And in no way, fashion, or form will I ever be the one to say there's no value there. There's no value in you. I hate that you went through that. But I tell you right now, it's because you went through that you have so much more to offer this world. You have so much more to offer this world. I'm sitting here and I'm doing this. Do you know how many people are going to hate me? Do you know how many people are going to have, oh, you're putting your dirty laundry out? Do you know how much negativity there is in this world? And there are so many people who are going to hear this. And guess what they're going to want to do? They're going to want to jump on the bandwagon of where he left off, to torment me, to do all types of things on social media, in the comments, in this, that, or the other. And you want to know something? Church going folks, close your ears. Martin Lawrence, he said, fuck him, girl, fuck him. Just fuck him, girl, fuck him. Just fuck him, girl, fuck him. Ignorance is crazy. Ignorance is crazy. It's cancerous. It's toxic. And there's so many people who they think that that's okay, that behavior is okay. And misery loves company. Those people are so miserable in their situation, in their lives, that the only thing that they know how to do is be nasty toward people, whether they deserve it or not. So as a society, if you measure the fabric of society in terms of how we get along with one another, how we treat one another, how we acknowledge one another, sure, this group might be good, that group might be terrible. The challenge is bringing them together. How do we bring them together? I had my own kids. I was married, had my kids. We lived in the Bay Area, came back, and we moved into this real nice neighborhood and things like that. And he ends up, I didn't know this, but it turns out he ended up living right around the corner. He's got a new family, right? He's got not even a new wife. I guess he was dating that woman the entire time. He was dating that woman, had a kid in that relationship, all types of things, And yeah, he was right around the corner, and I had to. So that little girl, when I was at the window, that little girl, my mom raised that somebody else's kid. My mom raised that kid, protected that kid. Couldn't protect hers, but raised that kid, protected that kid as her own. So that would be like my little sister, my little sister. I love her, and she would come to the house and stuff. I think my wife had seen her in traffic, and they were both headed in the same direction, and she realized that was my wife, and either followed her to the house or whatever, and it was just like, oh my gosh, where you guys been? I didn't know you lived here, but she was living with him, because by then my mom and him, they were like long gone, separate, apart, no more, divorced, and she was there, and we had to eventually go around that corner one time, like I think to take her home or something. We were doing something, right? And so it took a while for me, because I had to ask myself, deep down in reality, is there a part of me that really wants to hurt this man? My mom once told me that, because that anger did get the best of me. I'm not going to sit here and make you guys think that I'm just this angel, and nah, that's not me. That's not me. And people who know me know that that's really, the people who know me personally know that really wasn't me. So I had to ask myself, it took me a while, I had to ask myself, what is going to happen if I run into this guy in public? And I ran into him in public. And it was almost like a divine situation, because I was being tested. It was in a restaurant. The restaurant was packed. It was packed. It was popping. I'm in there with my family, my wife, my kid, my two kids, because we didn't have our youngest. We hadn't had him yet. We had the two older ones. And I'm in there with them, and we're eating. Matter of fact, I want to say, I think my mom was with us too. But he was in there, and, he came and he patted me. Because, see, he treats, in the times that I've seen him in my adult life, he's acted as though none of this stuff has ever happened, as though he and I are cool. And that's because I've grown. See, that restaurant was a test. That restaurant was a test. I was a hellion. And I welcome the people who know me to go in the comments if you want to. I don't care. You could say I was a hellion. And so later in life, a hellion in that, I didn't back down from stuff. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really back down from stuff. And so not that I was out there, I wasn't out there doing stuff crazy and things like that. But I was not, as I got older, I didn't turn the other cheek. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to go at you or whatever the case may be. I'm cool. But I harbored so much anger that if it got to a point where it got out, it was real nasty. So I tried really hard to maneuver life without putting myself in situations where that anger would come out. You know what I mean? So, and at the same time, like I talked about earlier, how I went to therapy, I didn't ever want to be who he was to my kids. I didn't never want that cycle to play out. I didn't want to play out who he was to my wife and the relationships that he had. I didn't want that to come out. I didn't want the sexual abuse that I experienced. I didn't want that to reveal itself in any way, fashion, or form in my life and things like that. So I went to therapy. I spent the time and stuff and did the classes, did the coursework. I did them. I did it, and, if you think it's crazy, let me tell you, I'm not, you got to break that cycle. And sometimes it's good to have somebody there who gets it. They get it from the mental health side. They get it from the life side. They understand. And, I had some very interesting folks who work with me, at the place that I went to. And, my buddy Eric Arrington, he was there. Eric was in a wheelchair, so he had a lot of things that he would be going through there, and he was kind of a spokesperson too. But I would go there, and Man, when I tell you, you don't realize you have distorted thoughts until those thoughts are put on the table, and you go through the process of analyzing them. You know what I mean? And you learn how to do a cost benefit analysis and just all these different tools. You know, you understand emotional intelligence and stuff like that. Man, was it Daniel Goleman? I think it's Daniel Goleman. Listen, a lot of great stuff, But you know what? It was a test in that restaurant, and I didn't even know it was him. My wife saw him first, and he just walked up and touched me on the shoulder. And now you're in my space, but you touched me on the shoulder while I'm sitting there waiting on my food or whatever, and I look up and I see it's him. And I look at my wife, and I think in that moment it was like time stopped, and I had a moment to process. You know what I mean? It was almost like God was like, "So what you gonna do? He here. What you gonna do now? Right? You've been doing all this. You've been talking this talk. What you gonna do now? You've been studying forever. So what you gonna do about it? Huh? You gonna go get him? Cause he did what he did. You gonna go get him, or you gonna let me handle that?" I let go. I let God. I let go. I said, "Hey, how you doing, man? All right, cool. Oh, you here with your family? Okay, you here with your family? All right. It's good. Hey, it's good to see you. It's my family, my wife, my kids, this, that, the other. You know." He said, "Oh, she told me you live over here, and yeah. You know, yeah. You looking good. You know, you maintaining that weight. I see you maintaining that weight. All right, hey." I was just being cordial like guys do or whatnot, and it was, if there was anything that he needed to walk away with, was, you ain't talking to a little boy, player. You talking to a grown man. A grown man. And so, with that, I believe in that, one, and it was necessary for me to approach him in that way, and just smile and chuckle and be cordial and let it go. He's like, hey, let's yeah, man, let's go for some coffee one time, whatever. Something he said, I'm not sure. I had no intention of doing that, but I was like, oh, okay, hey, we'll touch base, let it go. And I seen him another time. And I will say, though, the hardest time for me, like getting through those moments, it was a lot easier. The hardest time for me was when I seen his sons. Not so much the oldest one, because my relationship with him was a little different, but it was the one that I walked in on, because I'll never forgive that. See, he did everything that he did, and I know a lot of people want me to forgive him. I won't. Nah, I won't forgive him. You know what I'm saying? People will say, "Well, you won't be released." Yeah, I'm released. I'm released. Mm-hmm. Like I have no desires to go out and hurt that man. I don't want to go do anything with that man. If the law wanted to go get him, hey, go get him. But hey, look, man, let me tell you something. I've been so blessed out of that. The fact that I've been blessed out of that circumstance, to survive it, to learn, to be able to educate others, to educate my own family, the growth that I've had from that, I would say for him, the fact that I've been able to overcome is a reflection of forgiveness, because where I'm from, the alternative is you go get that dude. I've had people who you would not expect to have this, even in law enforcement, come and basically say, "Why is he still alive?" What do you mean? Listen, that's not in my control. I am not about to harbor hate and anger, because I got my own. I have a beautiful family, man. I got a beautiful family. I've made I've had some great relationships. I've met some great people. I've been able to have an impact on people's lives. I'm being real with y'all. People will come on and they want to play the churchy situation. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. No. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be real with you. Right? I'm going to be real with you. It was hard looking at his son And he came up and went, hey, what's up? He's playing basketball or whatever. And I was like, hey, there with his new wife. And the first thing that came to mind is, I wonder if his wife knows. Because if they have children, little girls, will they be at risk? You see, that's why I have a hard time forgiving. If those little girls are in the presence with his dad, will they be at risk? That's why I can't forgive. Because nothing about them and that time told me that they had actually changed. So, having in the back of my head, or this realization that there is a potential that they could harm these children, forgive them? No. Some would say, well, they haven't done it yet. You don't know. You're not there. Okay, yeah, okay. And you're right. You're right to have that opinion, just like I'm right to have mine. And you didn't experience any of what I've experienced with those individuals. So your opinion is yours, in a box, signed, sealed, delivered, wrapped in a ribbon. I will definitely hear it, and I will acknowledge it as yours, and only yours, person after person after person. But see, I know things a little bit differently. Every day, I used to do this thing where I look in the mirror, and I'm going to end on this. I used to do this thing where I would look in the mirror. It took me a while. I would sit in the mirror and I would just stare at myself and try to lock eyes with myself. And then I realized, I can't make this eye look in the same eye and that eye look in the same eye. So then I started to divide the mirror. I started to divide the mirror where one half of my face was in there. So now that eye is eye to eye. There's no crossing or no, trying to get them to line up. But now I'm sitting there and I would just sit and stare and really try to look into my own soul and determine by asking myself, am I the man that I want to be? Am I the man, or am I becoming the man that I want to be? I started doing that at a really young age. Not really. In my early 20s. I would say in my early 20s. Am I the man that I want to be? Am I doing the things that are going to cause me to become the man that I want to be? Or am I so far off that I need help to find the path, just to find the doorway, the gate, the fence? Show me where the latch is. Where is the sign to get on that path to become the man that I want to be? I did this with my athletes. I coach athletes and train athletes, and I was doing all that. And I would do that with them. And I would have them do some real soul searching. And I want you to really try to look into your soul. Because as you sit there for a while, and you ask yourself the hard questions, the really tough questions, you've got to give an account of the things that you have not been diligent on as it pertains to your own life and why you are not there. You can't lie to yourself. You can try. You can try really hard to lie to yourself. You can fake the funk on a nasty dunk, but I promise you, you're going to find all of your goals still sitting in the trunk. And that's for me, when I'm in those moments, I realize it's decision-making time. Because if I find that I am not doing what it is that I need to be doing, now I've got to take a shift in my life. See, I committed myself to every day I'm going to be here. Every day I'm going to be here, and I'm going to have a discussion, and I'm going to do what I have to do. I'm going to interview my guests, and I'm going to do all that stuff. But every day I'm going to do this. Why? Let me tell you something. I was not gifted with this thing. I did not go through this stuff to not do anything with it. I did not go through it for it to just sit here, all the scars on the skin, everything that I went through, to not share it, to not tell somebody, to not help somebody, to not give somebody the rope to help them, to pull them out of the quicksand, to pull them out of the mud, to pull them at the bottom of the well. There's no water there. It's dry. It's hot. They're too deep. They don't know how to get out. If I have it, I've got to send it down there. If I got a rope, I've got to send the rope down, and I've got to pull them up. I can't wait on the pastor. I can't wait on the guy across the street. I can't wait on the teacher. I can't wait on the police officer. I can't wait on the fireman. I can't wait on this person. I can't wait on their brother. I can't wait on their mother. I can't wait on their grandmother. I can't wait on grandpa. I can't wait on uncle. Sorry that your boyfriend didn't show up. Sorry that your fiance walked away. Sorry that the restaurant person is not here to help you. Sorry that your boss gave you the finger. If I'm standing right there, I need to do what it is that I was put on this planet to do. And that's all I need to do. And that's the same thing that you need to do. But you got to look yourself in the mirror and you got to do it.